Welcome to Yoga Chats with me, your host, Greg Walsh. Today's guests are some of the Samadhi yoga teacher training class of 2021, graduates of 2021. We have Linda, we have Michael, and we have Noeleen. Thank you all very much for joining me today, guys. So we were planning a blended learning experience last year because we thought that we were going to have to reduce the numbers in the studio, but then we of course went into a lockdown. The studios were closed, so you were expecting to work side by side with a small group of like-minded yogis, but you never even got to meet some of the people in person in your class. Nothing was as expected this year, yet here you are, you and quite a few other people, certified qualified yoga instructors. So tell me how it was.
So I'll start. I was introduced to Samadhi yoga in the Drogheda studio, and I had expected maybe to even do my teacher training in Drogheda at one stage. And then of course the world changed and we went on a different track, and everyone went on a different track, and Samadhi, you know, really kind of jumped in kind of with its 2 feet kind of into that kind of new world. So when the opportunity came up for the Temple Bar training to be online to begin with, and that was something that really actually suited me because of work, because of kids, being away from Dublin. So going up to Temple Bar and going on Zoom, you know, I was really kind of happy about that there would be a balance there, you know, that we could be on, I think we were due to do it on a Friday night, and then 6 of us would be up on Saturday, 6 of us would be up on Sunday, and then
that was the plan. Yeah.
That never panned out. But it became, like, for me, and it just became such a kind of lifeline once a month to have that intense weekend, even if it was on Zoom. I didn't find, you know, as time went on, that I felt like I was lacking in anything. If anything, I gained so much from it being, you know, available to begin with. But with the Zoom thing, it was just this, it became part of our world. So the yoga teacher training class, for me, exemplifies the best of lockdown, because it was something that I gained from so much in the course of it. I feel like it was such an achievement to have done it. And I think, to be honest, between work, between the kids and everything else, for me to be physically in the Temple Bar studio to do the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that would have been a challenge for me, definitely. And I just felt, for me, the Zoom was just a total lifeline.
Yeah, it's an absolute game changer, isn't it? And the fact that with Zoom, we don't do it with regular classes, but we could record it. So you had that there as a revision tool.
Yeah.
And we, as the teachers and the tutors on the course, had it there as a, like, it just, we could go back over it and check a sort of a quality control in a way to make sure that we were delivering what we needed to make sure.
I'm going back to them. I've been going back to them every so often and like just checking in on stuff. And I'm trying to, the only problem is though, I don't think we have them labeled, do we, in the different poses? So to try and find them, but still, you know, generally I have it ticked in our manual when we did certain poses at once, you can kind of line them up. But having the recordings is amazing. It's such a great resource.
The recordings were brilliant. The video recordings were brilliant for revision and coming up to the exam. But at the exam, Greg, I looked back at the first months, just thinking I should really, you know, I'd looked at loads of more complicated things. And I thought, what did we do in month 1? And it was like a different teacher, because you were so sweet and so remedial class. And you're like, this is a triangle. And it was all very gentle. And I think by November, December, that had gone, and we were racing through poses, and you were much more like.
No, I always remember the first weekend you told us to go into downward dog, and you could hear like there was almost like this in your voice. There was this like, oh God, there's a lot of work here.
No,
you know, yes.
Only a little bit.
And I always wonder, Jesus, what did we look like in downward dog at that stage?
Now you can go back and you can see.
I think for the first weekends, it's kind of that we got the structure, and so I think that pace was probably right for us. But for me, when I look back on when we were coming up to final exams, and I look back on even works I had submitted, particularly to you, Greg, I thought, oh my God, I would have answered those questions quite differently. So as much as I was doing yoga for a long time, like yourself, Linda, in Samadhi and Drogheda, I think I got an awful lot more out of the training than I was expecting. I think I just kind of understood the whole thing at a different level, which was great. But just going back to something you were saying about being on Zoom, I mean, the fact that the course was supposed to be blended made it accessible to me as well. There's just no way I would have been able to do 3 days in Dublin. And then, of course, the fact that we were in lockdown, I normally work a week on a Saturday anyway, so I would have had to take that day off. But I think aside from that, the other thing that was different for me to other trainings I've done is that because we just were living the whole thing on Zoom, we did loads of practice. We got together and we practiced on Zoom. Like if you were practicing with people depending to go into Temple Bar or into, Drogheda or whatever, so you wouldn't have gotten as much done as we did, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, because I mean, you were meeting up with Hillary, Noeleen, weren't you?
Yeah.
And I was meeting up with Magda online, and Michael, you were kind of the party manager at one stage, weren't you? You were really kind of get the social going.
We're successful as a Tuesday, but I thought with Zoom, I was quite looking forward to the blended, because I did think it would be a nice social thing and that we would all have a bond as fellow trainees. And I had seen like previous years of Samadhi I used to go to some Orla Punch intermediate level classes, which I realized now are advanced classes. And one of the years from 2 years ago, we're all going as this like class activity. And they obviously had a real class bond. And initially, like when month 2 or 3, Greg was like, look, you guys all, by teaching each other, he's like, you guys all know each other at this stage. And I think we were all thinking to each other, no, we don't.
You don't.
We were quite shy still at that stage.
What was really sweet then was actually by January, February, if not even before it, with Linda set up the WhatsApp group. And then actually we all started like sending each other help and tips and being supportive. And there was one month, and I think it was February, it felt like we were all in the naughty step a bit. And needed to up our game, and we're told we hadn't been practicing enough. And then in the WhatsApp afterwards, everyone was like, oh, you did brilliantly, and don't
we're busted.
A little bit of moral support.
Even though we've never met, the 12 of us, obviously some people have met now, but like the 12 of us have never been in a room, and I still haven't met anyone in person from the course.
Oh, have you not?
You still felt though this great bond by the end of like the final exam. It was like,
it was amazing. That weekend was really amazing.
When you and Paula were going off into your breakout room, everyone has been very supportive. Like, you think we're 12 strangers? Like, that was the big surprise of Zoom.
Yeah, because a lot of people say that they're over Zoom, and Zoom is, there's sort of no. It's hard to express emotions on Zoom, and there's no heart in Zoom. But I did notice that it felt for me that it took maybe 2 months longer for all of you as a group to bond than we had noticed in previous years. Because of course, if you're in like the bonus of being in the same room, let's say in Temple Bar, there's Queen of Tarts Cafe across the way. At the end of Sunday night, you might go for a glass of wine or whatever. You might just all sit out in the courtyard and have a bit of lunch together. That's the benefit. But the benefit of the Zoom is, well, aside from the fact that if we didn't Zoom the course, we wouldn't have done the course. You guys would not be qualified. And but also it meant that you didn't have to travel. You didn't have that commitment. Like, we were some of the tutors were talking recently about Friday night, 6:30 to 9:30, getting into Temple Bar with traffic and all that on a Friday night is a disaster. And post-lockdown, the streets mostly have been narrowed for pedestrians and for cycling. There's way fewer parking spaces, and so it would be even more difficult. So for me, it was a revelation, and it was brilliant to work with you guys. Like the previous year had been partly on Zoom, but you guys were the first year it was entirely on Zoom, and it was a privilege working with you all. And I really felt that I thought all of you did very well. I didn't feel that anyone was dropping back. It could be partly because we were all in lockdown, and you couldn't be going to the cinema or going away for a weekend or anything. So we, in a way, had nothing else to do. But also, I think you ended up building up quite a tight bond and really supporting each other and sort of in a healthy way, egging each other on to practice more?
I mean, it's certainly, I think that was the case for us. And, you know, Linda, when you set up the WhatsApp group, I think the WhatsApp probably was where it really is where we, I suppose, got to know each other well enough to say, you know, I'm going to have a Zoom practice on Tuesday night and on Thursday night, come along. And
it took off really quickly. Everyone got stuck in really quickly to that. Yeah, absolutely.
That
everyone
really was pivotal, and it probably is for any group. But I suppose though the fact that, you know, we weren't together in the class, whatever about having activity afterwards, but even when you're in a room with people, you know, it's just even that support or that turn around and saying, oh my God, I find this is really hard or whatever.
Yeah.
That's, I think, is a crucial thing. But I think now, I mean, we've kind of gone through all of our training during lockdown. It was great. I would agree, Linda, in what you're saying, that it was a big part of your sanity and everything, you know, that you were focusing on this big thing, you know, this big thing you've kind of taken on, you know, during this time. So I think that was fantastic. But Greg, I feel now that the world has changed, and like, would you even dream of bringing people in for 3 hours of the theory in the middle of Dublin city centre on a Friday night when there's probably no need?
But even beyond that, even beyond the teacher training of it, you know, even those 3 hours, like, would you, like, yoga will always be on Zoom from now on.
Yeah,
I'd always have a place. Yeah,
it will have. Yeah, we'll go to a blended, but Zoom now, I think, is a key part of
I agree. I think it's a new chapter, I feel, and it's an exciting new chapter, and I feel that we're mapping it out. It's a new world, and we're trying to, like, I think when we can reopen very soon, it'll be really interesting to see how blended works, because that's a new thing, because we've been doing entirely on Zoom, and that's one thing, but sort of teaching 2 classes at once, that's going to be a whole new, and I'm excited about it, because I do like to, you know, keep kicking myself in the pants to just, you know, I don't want to just get complacent in it. So that's exciting. But yeah, I agree, you know, like, especially in lockdown, but anytime, like, Noeleen and Linda, you guys are now in Drogheda and I'm based in Dublin. We would not get to practice together twice a week. So not even teacher training, but, you know, anytime now, you know, we have our friend Helen in Switzerland who did the teacher training. Now, I wouldn't have taken someone like Helen onto a course if I didn't know them really well. But, you know, you could see very quickly Helen's practice was super. So there was no issue with that. But being able to, you know, people like Helen zooming into class, being able to choose to practice with your favorite teacher, even if the geography doesn't allow it. There's such great value in that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. I think something that I feel is important with Zoom is not ideally, especially if you're working on a laptop all day, not doing it on the same laptop. Maybe you do it on your iPad, or maybe I think ideally you cast it over to your telly if you've got access to the sitting room, something like that. So it feels a little bit different to your workday, and it feels a little bit more immersive ideally. But yeah, it's exciting. But you know, 18 months ago, 20 months ago, if you'd said, would you run your classes on Zoom? Not a chance. Would you run teacher training on Zoom? I'd be outraged.
I wouldn't ask me, would I do a teacher training course on Zoom? I would have said not a chance.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't have, but having said that, and I have said previously that I think you're very good on Zoom, and I don't think it's that easy done. You know, I mean, from the teacher training perspective, and not teaching the classes, but it really worked. And from my perspective as well, you know, I was working on Zoom, and then I was spending the whole weekend on Zoom. I don't know if I would have really looked forward to that, but I really have to be honest, I didn't notice it.
It was great, and I think
it's just so much practical, and the way the course is structured, that you're kind of dipping into various different things. It just, there was so much change in the day, and that I really didn't notice it. That surprised me.
The
I think that's
weekends
key.
began to fly, didn't they? I mean, every
Did they?
weekend just went faster and faster and faster, to the point when we got to February, then the months just started to fly in, like March, April, May just flew through it. But like Noeleen, when you were saying there about, like, you know, teaching on Zoom, and, you know, we would have thought about it a couple of years ago, it's like, oh, that's a kind of flim flam stuff maybe. But there is a huge difference between a yoga YouTube video and a Zoom class for yoga, because like I never work as hard on a YouTube video, any one of them. You kind of like, right, okay, that's nice, that's a good pose. You know, obviously I work very hard now, you know, now that I'm, you know, virtuous and beyond the course. But years ago, you don't have that kind of same human connection with just a video, a kind of a cold video as such on YouTube. Whereas the Zoom is live, integrated. It's you know, you're communicating, and you can feel it in your body as well. The thing on the teacher training course was, you knew you were working physically. There was no room to slack off. We all probably felt that kind of never, like
someone I know
out of
said,
classes.
You never know when the teacher's not looking at you. So at any time they could be looking at you. So you need to keep the pressure on all the time, keep the work on all the time.
Looking, Greg.
Say again, Michael.
You're always looking.
Always watching.
All eyes. Yeah.
I know you said about Zoom, that said one thing that was different was maybe it took us those extra 2 months to form a class bond. But it really struck me, and I only really realized it at the end of the year, that apart from that, a lot of it did go to timetable. Like, I was struck that you guys, having done the teacher training for so many years, you know, Elena in February was like, oh, you know, guys, at this time of the year, all the students are usually suffering from injuries. They're really doubting themselves. They're feeling low. They feel like, you know, that you were saying similar things, Greg, maybe in April at this point in the year. I think we were even February, March, April. I was like, what are they talking about? And it was only at the end I could see that we did ride those waves and surf them. Yeah. But in February, it's like, what are they talking about? But at the end of the course, all your predictions, all of you like, what will happen in May? What will happen in June? Yeah. Where you'll be in July? And actually, even though it was all on Zoom, that all did still hit those marks.
Yeah, I think the syllabus didn't change, and even particularly the timetabling didn't change. It was just the way we were delivering it did change. But yeah, because I think when you, like we always do it, we begin with a certain few poses, and then month 2 it's the next batch of poses, and the poses hit you in different ways, and usually March, April, tears. Did anyone have that experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we all had a whinge at some stage, that's for sure.
I had a moment with Pincha.
My low moment was much later on, actually.
When was it, Noeleen?
And I think it was kind of more kind of work related, and we were coming up to the end of the semester, and we were coming into the social media. I was just felt under so much pressure. I really did, and I felt overwhelmed.
I think I was the same, Noeleen, with work too. Just the end of April.
Yes,
like April. We had 2 weekends in March, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
At the start,
it was fine.
It was good timing for me as well. But that was the crunch point for me as well. With everything was on top, and it was just timing, and it was never going to be any other way. There was always going to be one part of the year that was going to be busy for me anyway. But yeah, no, that moment where you kind of have the tears. I remember one night, the Wednesday class, we were working on Pincha. And I came out of that class. I was a beaten woman that night. I was messing around, and the elbows weren't working, and the brick wasn't working for me. And I was like feeling really sorry for myself. And I was very glad I was on Zoom that night, because I was like, you were acting like this in person in a class, Linda.
For me, it was February, March, and I put my back out, and then was like, this is just, I can't do this. I'm going to have to quit the course, and blah, blah, blah. But then we were studying for I think it was only like the second exam or first exam. I went back to the very first October lecture, like the 6:30 chat with Greg. And the third line in my notes was Greg had said, you will doubt yourself. You know, you will, but you have to, like, it just felt very profound. It felt very wise. And like,
Yeah.
October Greg was talking to me when I was having my breakdown.
Well, I would have reiterated that if we'd had a one-to-one at that point, Michael. But yeah, are you glad you didn't let go of the course at that point?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a minor.
Yeah. So with that in mind, like you came to the course with goals and hopes and dreams, and maybe you were hoping to deepen your practice, maybe you were hoping to learn more about the yoga philosophy. Noeleen, you were saying about that a little bit, or maybe obviously you might have been thinking, I'd like to teach yoga. Do you feel you achieved your goals, whatever they were?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just that achieve the goals. I think at the start, I didn't even know what goals were in yoga. I think it just opened up completely like the vista of what, is in the entire practice. And I thought it was so strange at the start when you talked about, this is the 8 limbs of yoga and what's in yoga, and asanas and pranayama are just 2 of the 8 limbs. And I remember thinking at the start, no, it's not. It's the poses. And then it's a bit of the pranayama. But as I quickly realized, it is very much a balance of all of those things. And I was struck really by particular things like yamas and niyamas and things like that kind of that guidance within it. So I completely fell in love with the sutras, and especially the Bhagavad Gita. I just think the Bhagavad Gita should be taught in schools. It's just beautiful, so that really surprised me, that the philosophical underpinning of the entire, not just practice, but you bring it to your entire day then as well. And I never expected that I'd go for that. I never thought that I'd kind of, fall for it. And it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous philosophy. So that for me was amazing.
Yeah.
I think for me, I didn't intend to teach. It was very much about deepening my yoga practice. And probably, I certainly have achieved that goal. But what has surprised me is, I think not that I wanted to do the Instagram version of poses, not being that shallow, but I wanted to get better at forward folds and almost be able to do the final pose or the perfect pose. I was thinking maybe at the end of this, I'll be able to do lotus, or, maybe I'll do a freestanding handstand. And it was very much about the asanas. Whereas now I accept my body much more for what it can do. And I do have back issues. I do have tight hamstrings, like yourself, Greg. So, at the minute, my Paschimottanasana is where it is. It's a journey, but it's one point in it. And I'm probably much more accepting of that than I would have been last summer, or even October, November, December. Whereas I'm well, this is what my body can do. And yes, I need props to do it. And that's perfectly fine. And I'm actually really content and happy with that. Because then my body can do some of the poses in the final or perfect version, but others it can't. And I am much more accepting of that. And it's probably because, as Linda says, it's a lot of the philosophy and a lot of the pranayama as well has maybe helped me get there. So that was a big surprise and a really nice one, that I'm not chastising myself for in a class, giving out that, oh, I can't do that, or my head can't touch my knees, or why can't I bend this way? And that's actually been a really nice, powerful part of it for me.
Yeah. I so agree with you, Michael. I'm so happy to hear you say that, because that's so important. I think the poses are tools to get you to achieve a state of yoga, rather than the poses are something in themselves. Noeleen, what about you? Do you feel you achieved your goals?
Oh yes, absolutely. And Michael, I could kind of mirror really what you have said, because the yoga to me was more about movement, and Linda, you're saying about it's not just the movement and the pranayama, but just the philosophy. And it was actually one of the reasons that I wanted to do the course in the first place. But I got an awful lot more out of it than I was expecting. And I had looked, over previous years, done a lot of reading around kind of mindfulness, growth, but I never connected the two.
Yeah.
It was slow learning, but I'd never actually connected to it. But it really connected things for me. It really helped me to join the dots. And as I said, when I look back at questions that I'd answered, I probably answered them from a physical perspective, rather than from that kind of holistic aspect of I suppose what yoga is. So really, it kind of really broadened my horizons.
Brilliant. And as regards from the physical or whatever, you are where you are. I'd say if you, in 3 months' time, if you answered those questions again, they'd be different again. And in a year's time, they'd be, you know. So I'm going to ask you honestly, is there anything we could have done better, do you think? Is there anything we could do better next time around?
Well, you'll be able to do something better the next time around, which is to do, I think the only way that our program could have been better is if it had the opportunity to run in its original format where we were kind of part blended.
Yeah.
Because I would have loved that. Like, you know, we haven't met Michael.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't all met. We have to all get together and meet. But I think that's you know, if you were going to make something better, that would be to me that would be what you would do.
Yeah.
But you were constricted by the government. You couldn't.
We couldn't. No, we couldn't. What I'm saying. You know,
no, I appreciate it.
Was,
and it was a lifeline for us all, for us as well, to be clear, because I know you guys got a lot out of it, but it gave us all purpose. It gave us all purpose. Yeah. Sorry, Linda, did I speak over you?
No, just to say that, like, I mean, we will meet up. And I think, honestly, like, even on that last weekend, we were all on such a high on the Sunday. It was amazing. It was the best experience, I swear. And it's just so lovely then after that for us all.
So hold on, can I get you to say that again? That was your exam weekend. Let's be clear. Exam weekend was the best weekend.
So Friday night was hectic. It was so for anyone who's gone into TT at this stage, it does. I mean, it's hard going, but it is just so worth it. I mean, it's so funny. I remember that last week, like, so vividly, because we had our last training weekend on the first weekend of July, and then the exam weekend the second weekend of July. And at the end of the last training weekend, I came out on the Sunday night and I was like a brat. I was so petulant. I was like, I hate this and I don't want to do any more yoga, and when I'm finished this course, I'm finished yoga, that's it. And I knew at that point in the back of my head, I was like, this is actually a good sign. You've reached a point now, you are like absolutely so immersed in the course that you're consumed, but this is the right time to be consumed by it. This is it now, final push. And Noeleen, your advice was so brilliant. You said at one stage, sprint to the end. I think you said that about a month before the exam. I was flagging about a month, 6 weeks before the exam, and you were like, just sprint to the end. And I was like, that's it, right? Noeleen knows what she's talking about. That's it. Let's go.
For anyone who's watching this or listening, who's thinking about doing yoga teacher training, absolutely do it. But what will be the most difficult part is in those first few months when Greg asks and the gang ask us to teach each other, and you absolutely hate it. You can't do it. You fail at it. Your voice is shaking. You're talking nonsense. You're like, you're going, your left foot, no, your right foot, your hand, your arm, like absolutely terrible. But what really then, well, I noticed that just like we all were getting better and better, but you still hate yourself while you're in the middle of it. But then by sort of May, June, July, it was like, we're all actually getting really good. You could see even if you couldn't see the improvement in yourself, you could see it in others. You know, like they've come so far.
Definitely,
And those last 2 weekends in July, I was thinking for the first time, I actually could maybe teach a couple of poses and not be terrible at it. And that was brilliant, like just to see that change, you know.
That's brilliant. Guys, do you mind if I wrap it up now, because we could talk all night because we've talked a lot on Zoom. One final thing, just on Noeleen, what you were suggesting. I've said this to you before, but because we're entirely on Zoom, I would love when we can reopen the studio to 12 of you. I'd love to get you in for a weekend so we can, and we plan it in advance that people can come from further afield. It'd be really great. Yeah, and I feel that to me would be like the cherry on the top of the icing on the cake.
Greg, the one thing you could do differently or could have done better was at the final week, the penultimate weekend.
Yes.
You give advice to the class, and it was, look, guys, next weekend, don't pick on Michael. He's the only man and the male body. Don't pick on Michael. And I was thinking, 10 months. It took you 10 months, Greg. Not as that does before.
Now, for everyone who's watching or listening, to be clear, Michael had a brilliant setup. He would always wear black, and he had
white,
and a
lower
white
level camera.
with a
an amazing kitchen.
And
Like,
then we're just
just
pitching,
pitching.
and he had a stairwell that you could, do a leg raise on. Like, your setup was brilliant, Michael. So I apologize that I picked on you, but it was.
No, not you. No, the point wasn't that you were picking on me. You were telling I was the
know.
only male teacher trainee. And
Are
you
you
were
saying we picked on you, Michael? We did not.
a little bit.
It's all
Just
come
over
out
the
now.
dog. Just over the dog.
It'll either kill you or make you stronger. Did it kill you, Michael?
No, it was. I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
No, yes. So, guys, can I say thank you all on behalf of everyone who's tuning in. It's been really great chatting with you. I really appreciated you coming and talking through. And, I miss our weekends together. So it was great to have a little catch up. And let's do it with the larger group soon, perhaps. So, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Namaste.
That's all for now, folks. I'm Greg Walsh. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you can join us for more yoga chats soon.